Welcome to the Synergy Sessions, Aging Smarter in Silicon Valley. I'm your host, Tom Nelson, and I know firsthand as a family caregiver and part of the sandwich generation how tough it can be to take care of your aging parents while balancing your own life, career, and family. We'll bring you the experts and information necessary to help make your life a little bit easier and you a little bit smarter. Synergy Sessions is brought to you by Synergy Home Care, bringing you personalized in-home care and peace of mind to Silicon Valley families. I really do hope you enjoy the show. Hi, everybody. Welcome back to the Synergy Sessions, Aging Smarter in Silicon Valley. Today, I'm very excited to have Tami Anastasia. Tami is a dementia consultant, educator, speaker, support group facilitator, and author of Essential Strategies for the Dementia Caregiver, Learning to Pace Yourself. Tami holds a master's degree in counseling, a certificate in gerontology, and a certificate in end of life. She's also a certified senior advisor, and for more than 30 years, Tami's provided counseling services, dementia guidance, emotional support, and care strategies to family and professional dementia caregivers, and provides counseling services and emotional support to people living with dementia. I mentioned earlier, Tami, that this is so personal to me because my mother had Alzheimer's for 16 years. Yeah. My father had vascular dementia. Today's actually my mom's birthday, so this is very coincidental and apropos, but this is very personal to me. And we've known each other for over 5 years now and worked very well. And I'm so impressed with you, and I'm just so happy to have you on our Synergy Sessions podcast today.
Well,
welcome.
Thank you, Tom. Yeah. And of course, you know how much I really support you and what you're doing. So it's a pleasure to be here. Thank you for inviting me.
Excellent. So why don't we start off? I said a whole bunch of things about how impressive your background is, and it certainly is, but also maybe just start off like, what do you primarily do in your role and in your services you have for your business?
Sure. So as you mentioned, I have a master's degree in counseling psychology. And so I have a private practice where I work primarily with the family caregiver. And basically, it's anything that is on their mind. But I really do a lot of the emotional support, and I provide a lot of care strategies on how to deal with the different changes, behavioral changes, cognitive changes. And then don't forget, we have a relationship with this person pre-dementia, and that relationship changes when they have dementia. So we deal with a lot of, how the relationship shifts. But we also deal with family dynamics,
Right.
When someone has dementia, a lot of the family dynamics come to the surface. So basically, whatever the need is, they'll reach out to me. And my goal is with every consult, with every private session, that they walk away feeling more educated, they've learned something, and they feel more equipped on how to deal with whatever that issue might be that they bring to me. And it varies. It's a wealth of different issues. It can be frustrations, questions, grief, sadness, loss, anger, resentment, you name it. I deal with whatever it is, the issue is that they bring to me.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I think that's so important too, because when you think about supporting somebody with Alzheimer's or dementia, the focus is on just how do we take care of them, but you're really taking care of and supporting the whole family and the people take care of it. As you just mentioned, so many dynamics. And, if you've met one person with Alzheimer's or dementia, you've met one person with Alzheimer's or dementia. The continuum and the differences, it's the personality, all those things blend into it. So there's no one size fits all. So you're going in and really getting the landscape of the whole situation to be able to support them on the best path forward. It's amazing.
Yeah, it allows me to ask the questions I need to ask. I can really do a deep dive with my counseling background. I know the questions to ask. I know what I'm looking for. I'm anticipating, how are they going to respond? No two people are exactly alike, and no two families are exactly alike. So when I do the one-on-one, what I absolutely love, it allows me to privately go for the deeper dive so that I can educate them, but more importantly, really tailor the strategies, and the support is really personalized to who and what I'm getting feedback and who the people are involved. in the dementia journey.
Right. So that kind of leads into one of the things we wanted to talk about, which is people now just starting this journey with a loved
Mhm.
one.
Uh-huh.
What is the fundamental difference between Alzheimer's and dementia? And maybe just kind of for people just starting, what are the warning signs or the general warning signs before they should start to think about seeking additional support resources to help them? Because, they don't have to do it alone for sure. So the difference between dementia and Alzheimer's, and also the warning signs that they should be aware of.
Yeah, the term dementia and Alzheimer's are often used interchangeably. So I think it's really important to distinguish what dementia is and then what Alzheimer's is.
Mhm.
So think of, we have a category called cancer. Cancer is a
Mhm.
category that describes a certain disease, and there's
Right.
umpteen million different types of cancer. So dementia is the category we use for anybody who is experiencing cognitive impairment, but the
Mhm.
cognitive impairment has to be severe enough that it interferes with daily living. It
Right.
interferes. That's the key. We have normal aging, we have mild cognitive impairment that doesn't become dementia, and then we do have mild cognitive impairment, if it progresses, can become dementia. So the cognitive impairment, for it to be considered a dementia, has to interfere with our ability to deal with what we call instrumental activities of daily living, paying bills,
Mhm.
going shopping, making a grocery list, executive functioning, planning, scheduling. And then it also has to be severe enough where it interferes with what we call ADLs, activities of daily living,
Yep.
being able to dress yourself, feed yourself, mobility, and showering, toileting, and those things. What you have is then dementia is the category, and Alzheimer's happens to be a type of dementia.
Right.
And Alzheimer's is the highest percentage of dementias right now. So Alzheimer's, the hallmark signature characteristic of Alzheimer's is short-term memory loss. But there are over 100 different types of dementia. And the
Mhm.
four you hear mostly is going to be Alzheimer's. Then we have what's called vascular dementia.
Mhm.
That's often people who have had strokes. That has to do with blood circulation. And the hallmark there is we'll see a slower thinking, slower processing. So it might present itself subtly different than Alzheimer's. And I think that's the other thing people need to be aware of. I will get a lot of calls and think, well, my loved one doesn't have dementia because they don't have short-term memory loss.
Mhm.
Dementia affects thinking, processing, reasoning, judgment, executive functioning, visual spatial. So we have to think beyond just memory loss. And then
Right.
you have what we call Lewy body dementia, which is in the Parkinson's family. There, the hallmark will be we'll see maybe motor skills or again executive functioning, but hallucinations are a big factor with
Mhm.
Lewy body. And then we have what's called frontal temporal
Mhm.
dementia. And that's Bruce Willis put that on the map because again, his initial symptoms were aphasia, losing the ability to speak and language.
Mhm.
And with frontal temporal, we'll see really dramatic personality and behavior changes.
Mm.
So again, that dementia is a category for cognitive impairment severe enough. And you could have a stroke where that could cause cognitive impairment so severe that I can't take care of myself. So,
Mhm.
and then we have traumatic brain injury. We have Wernicke's-Korsakoff, which is
Mhm.
alcoholism, dementia. So you can see there's varying different types of
Yes.
dementia. So think of dementia as the category, and then these are all different types of
Right.
dementia. Yeah,
That's super helpful. So on a general basis, what are some of the warning signs that might,
yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
could lead into, I mean, as you said, it's pretty broad,
It is
but
pretty
I'm sure
broad.
there's some common warning signs that may trigger you to investigate further.
Yeah, yeah. And nowadays, everybody's worried they're going to get dementia. You're driving along and you go past an exit and you're like, oops, I should have turned back there. And people are like, oh my
Yeah.
God, am I getting dementia?
Yeah.
No, that's not dementia. That's just distraction. What
Yeah.
is
Right.
dementia, though, is that I drive someplace and I've driven it umpteen million times and I get lost, or I don't know where I am. Some other huge warning signs, for example, my mom's a great cook, Italian food. If
Hmm.
my mom called me out of the blue and said, I don't know how to cook lasagna or
Hmm.
spaghetti,
Yeah.
she can't follow a recipe,
Right.
that would be a red flag. There's
Hmm.
other red flags where we'll see increase of bills, stacks and stacks of
Hmm.
magazines. That will be a red flag. And then also we'll see a change in their personal hygiene, especially people who've been very, very, how can I say, well groomed. All of a
Hmm.
sudden, you just see something's a little bit off. And
Right.
then we will see they can't keep track of appointments, scheduling, executive
Hmm.
functioning becomes slightly impaired. And the reason I do want to go on record too and say, before you get a diagnosis of dementia, we are ruling out every single medical explanation that could be causing this behavior.
Right.
Urinary tract infections, vitamin B12 deficiency,
Hmm.
dehydration, sleep apnea. We want to rule out anything and everything that could be possibly medically explain what's happening. So
Hmm.
before it becomes a dementia, if it's a dementia diagnosis, we've ruled out anything and everything that could possibly be contributing to the
Right.
symptoms, right?
That's a great point because I've noticed in my not only taking care of my own parents, but with my clients,
Mm-hmm.
something like a urinary tract infection, I can mention, so much more affects their cognitive and their
Absolutely.
than somebody that's younger. It presents itself so much differently than and it's like, oh, it's a urinary tract infection. They get it cleared up and now they're back to their normal self again.
Yeah.
It's something that you don't think about right off the bat, but that's great to making sure that you're ruling out everything that's maybe
That
the
could
what
be
do they say? You
contributing.
hear footsteps. It's not probably a zebra. It's probably a horse. So let's like rule out the common things first before we go to the big diagnosis.
Yeah, because we really want to rule out, because there are so many things medically that can mimic dementia
Hmm.
that are treatable. So
Yeah.
let's say somebody's very, very low vitamin B12. Now, let me go back to the warning signs. Typically, you're not going to see just one warning sign. You're going
Mm.
to see a few playing out. And I kind of think of it this way. I call it the 4 R's. People
Mhm.
with dementia cannot retrieve information, remember information. They cannot retrace their steps.
Mm.
And so retrace and recognize familiar people, places, and things. The four
Mhm.
R's will
Okay.
help you know, I might be on the verge here of having dementia. And most people with dementia may not even be aware of their limitations. The
Yeah.
family members are going to be the ones that are going to be like,
Right.
there's a red flag here. I do
Yeah.
want to say, don't panic if everything, but I
Mhm.
do really recommend that people document any changes they see in their loved one, because
Mhm.
we start doubting ourselves. Oh gosh,
Mhm.
maybe I heard it wrong, maybe I saw it wrong. And when we
Mhm.
have that documentation, it provides clarity.
Yeah.
When did the symptoms start? Are they increasing? What's the frequency, the intensity? And it provides clarity not only for us, but it's also something that's very useful for doctors who are going to are going to ask certain questions, and they don't like hearsay. They
Mhm.
like facts, you know?
Yeah.
On this
Sure.
date, we started noticing this, on this date and this date. And it does provide such clarity for you that you're the one that's going to doubt yourself. Because
Right.
as we know with dementia, there are moments where they're very lucid, they're very aware. It's not
Right.
long lasting,
Yep.
but then you think, oh, they're not as bad as I think they are.
Yeah.
So that documentation
Mm.
is critical. And I
Right.
really highly recommend people do it for the clarity for yourself,
Yep.
as well as it will give the bigger picture as to what might be going on.
Right. Right. So that's a great segue into what are some of the myths
Yeah,
about dementia or Alzheimer's or
great
all the
question.
various categories.
Yep.
So,
So I'm going to tell you the myths that I hear mostly in my private
uh,
practice. One of the myths is my loved one is in denial. And when someone gets a formal diagnosis of dementia, it is not at that point, I don't call it denial, But there is brain damage in a certain part of the brain, which is the frontal temporal part of the brain, which is behind the forehead, behind the ears. That's where self-awareness is stored. And so if I have damage in that part of my brain, nothing in the world's going to get me to see what I can't see because the brain is damaged. I'm visually impaired. You could say, Tami, look at that beautiful bird over there. And I'll be like, what bird? I can't see it.
Yeah.
And you'll describe it to me. It's yellow, it's this, it's that. And I can't see what I can't see. So with dementia, the medical term is called anosognosia. So it's not that they're in denial. They're not intentionally not seeing. It's because the brain is impaired. They can't
Right.
see what they can't see. The other thing I get a lot of is my loved one lies and they're manipulative. Now, that being said, they might have been that way pre-dementia. They might have
Yeah.
lied. They might have been
Right.
manipulative. However, when we are dealing with cognitive impairment, they are no longer lying with the intent to deceive you. They are no longer manipulating you with the intent to deceive you. But what does happen is the brain confabulates. It distorts information, it confuses information. And so they're going to say and do things that are incorrect, that could be inappropriate, that are not true. And my clients think that they're lying and they're manipulative. And I have to help them process who they were then and now deal with these behavior changes that are not with the intent that they were pre-dementia.
Right.
So confabulations are false memories that the person living with dementia believes is true. So if you
Yeah. Right.
try to argue with me, I'm going to defend my thinking.
Right.
So it's really important because if I think that they're in denial, if I think they're lying, if I think they're manipulative, I'm going to react. I'm going to
Yes.
react with intensity and frustration. When I understand this is part of the brain being impaired, it allows me to respond and it allows me to be more reflective and thoughtful in how I respond back. So
Right.
that's a critical piece to make that distinction. And then the third myth is as dementia progresses, they'll start to get this blank affect, that this blank stare. And this is very painful for the caregiver to be on the receiving end because they interpret that behavior that my loved one doesn't care, they're not interested, they're not listening. And that is not what's happening. What's happening is that as the brain gets impaired, I become more emotionless. I become more apathetic. And that blank affect doesn't mean I don't care or that I'm not listening. It just means I'm not emotional because of what's happening to my brain. So I always tell people the brain may be failing, but the heart and the soul are still alive. So don't assume that that blank affect is saying, I don't care and I'm not interested. We still have to connect with people living with dementia. That is
Right.
so important.
And I think, what I saw with my own parents, because they were married 66 years.
Yes.
So when you know somebody that well, and I see
Yes.
this all the time with my clients, they are reacting, as you just mentioned,
Yes.
they're reacting as if they were the same person.
Yes.
So, for example, my mother was the one who took care of everything. She was the one that reminded all of us of everybody's birthdays and did
Yes.
the scheduling. And when she stopped doing that and started doing things, and when she was accused of not doing, she would come right back and say, I did not. Of course, because she probably couldn't even believe it herself because she's always been that person. So to
That's right.
accuse her that she forgot something or misplaced the mail somewhere,
Yes.
no, that was you, not me,
Yes. Yes.
so how do you, shifting a little bit from the person with dementia to the family caregivers.
Yeah.
So how do you, so they're in this situation now. This is starting to happen. They've
Yeah.
identified the warning sign. So what are how do you support a family caregiver to start, recognizing, okay, they're on this journey now.
Yeah.
The diagnosis happened,
Yes.
it is dementia.
Yes.
How do you support them, and how do they need to come to grips with that? I'm sure there's the 7 stages of loss or whatever to go through, because
Yeah.
they're losing the person they know in the form that they were. But
Yes.
then how do you support them, and what do they need to be aware of, because they're in it now,
Yeah, it's a
you know?
great question. Yeah. So we have what's called triggers. Again, we
Mhm.
have this relationship with this person. So there's a multitude of different emotions. There's so many
Mhm.
conflicting emotions. And so one of the things is I help caregivers identify what their own triggers are.
Mhm.
When the parent says this or the parent says that or the spouse, whoever it might be, what are your
Mhm.
triggers? And I help prepare by being aware of my triggers. Then I also know how to respond differently. I know how to, and then we do process if it's anger or
Mhm.
resentment or guilt or
Right.
loss or sadness. I mean,
Yes.
it's all over the place. So I can help process all those feelings, but I can also equip them to know how to interact with their loved one differently. So it's
Mhm.
not at the expense of their own physical, mental, and emotional well being, because this journey, no one person can do it alone. There's just
Right.
no way. I always say dementia demands more care than one person can do.
Right.
So the more I can help educate the caregiver as to what I call hooks them in, the
Mhm.
more we can prepare and plan for behavior changes. And as you know, one of the most
Mhm.
common things with dementia is the repetitive questions, and
Yes.
repeat, repeat, repeat. So I can tell clients things to look for. Like often with repetitive questions, there's themes behind what the
Mhm.
person living with dementia is asking. I can help prepare the caregiver on these are the repetitive questions. Let's prepare and plan for how to respond to those things. So a lot of it is preparing, it's helping the caregiver plan and equip them. So you're dealing with the emotional component, but also the hands-on component, and then how again to navigate all of these changes, from when do I place them into home care, into a care community, when do I bring in home care. There's
Mhm.
just a multitude of
Right.
dynamics, but I'm all about how can I help make this journey better for the caregiver,
Mhm.
both again mentally, physically, and emotionally. Yeah,
Absolutely.
because you're also dealing with the shift, when we're adult children, and we have
Mhm.
dementia in my family. When we're
Mhm.
adult children, there's a transition between
Mhm.
parent and child. When it's a spouse, I never paid the bills. I
Yeah.
never did laundry. I never did
Absolutely.
cooking, right?
Mhm.
So you have so many dynamics. And then who
Right.
you are, the role of who you were
Mhm.
in this family pre dementia, and now who you are now
Yeah.
as the primary caregiver.
Right.
So you can see there's just so many dynamics that I have to help the caregiver navigate, but
Right.
also have a safe place to express how this is affecting them.
Absolutely. And that's right. It's like there's so many role reversals. So the parent child, but yeah, my mom took care of everything.
Yeah.
My dad was along for the ride,
Yeah. Yeah.
He was, definitely the man of the family, but my
Right.
mom was the one that made sure everything happened. And when those roles reversed, the other thing I wanted to point out, and you mentioned, when to introduce, home care
Healthcare.
or community. I mean, and even bring in other family members,
Mhm.
because one of the things is that I know that the toll it takes on the family caregiver
Yep.
and their health. I read a stat that was something like 40+%
It's
of the
higher than that.
caregivers pass away before the person with Alzheimer's or dementia,
Yep.
because it is
Demanding.
yeah, it's so demanding on them, and they oftentimes take too long to introduce help, whether it's family help or what. I mean, like you said, they shouldn't do it alone, for sure, whether they bring in a professional service or just their community, their neighbors, their family, or whoever can help. It's so important to do that.
And that is where the caregiver guilt is so enormous, that I really, if you were going to say what are the top 3 issues that I deal with in my private practice, caregiver guilt is huge. It keeps
Hmm.
them stuck. And I
Yeah.
understand it, right? It's
Yes.
my responsibility. My loved one's going to get angry. My loved one's going to think I
Right.
gave up on them. The caregiver feels I'm failing my loved one. I mean, there's so many things about caregiver guilt. That is
Right.
the piece. And then you have this other piece that we also have to think about is when I do bring in care, which by the way, I often will coach clients on how
Hmm.
to bring in care, what to say,
Hmm.
what not to say to their loved one,
Right.
how to do it. Same thing with moving them into a care community. But we also have to remember every decision the caregiver makes, bringing in home care means my loved one is declining,
Hmm.
brings me closer to my loved one is changing. My loved
Hmm.
one is progressively getting worse. And I think we have to be very respectful of,
Hmm.
unfortunately, sometimes the pace that the caregiver can go at, because
Yeah.
we also don't want to strip them either. And we
Right.
also need to be very respectful of, and that's what I can do is say, I get it, I understand,
Hmm.
but also what are the markers that say it's time, where it's
Right.
about the dementia and not me personally failing my loved one, not me personally going against. I cannot tell you how many people say to me, I promised my loved one they can live at home. And
Hmm.
that was a promise
Right.
before they got dementia, right?
Yes.
And you have, people have a personal history. I have family members who are taking care of a loved one who went to a foster care home 5, 6 different times. I have
Hmm.
loved ones taking care of somebody who was abused. And so they're worried that their behavior is going to be misinterpreted. And we have to factor all of those things in.
Right.
So caregiver guilt is probably the biggest thing that keeps a caregiver stuck. And I
Hmm.
understand that. I get it.
Right.
And so how do we gently work with that guilt? And still, we got to take care of you and the person that you're caring for as well. I
Yeah.
always tell clients, listen, you're as important as the person you're taking care of.
Right.
You are providing fabulous care, support,
Hmm.
and love. And you know what? We got to balance it. I want you to
Yeah.
give back to yourself a little bit of what you're giving to your loved one. So we have a
Right.
little more balance, right?
Yeah.
Usually it's like this.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that is so underestimated to just take that little bit of break, have a family member or a neighbor come over so you
Uh-huh.
can get out,
Yeah.
take care of yourself. And I think that is probably one of the biggest things that I see because it does take that toll. The other thing is what would you recommend? Because I'm hoping this podcast with you is to really help people identify, okay, I'm hearing my life here in this conversation, either
Yeah.
a lot or a little bit. What are the steps that they should take? I mean, there's okay, I'm getting it. I should probably do something. What are the steps they should take? They've seen a warning sign. There's these behaviors. What do they need to do to get to that next level to make sure they're taking care of not only their loved one but also themselves, so they're on the right path to have as a most successful journey with Alzheimer's or dementia? Because I would imagine there's no two paths that are the same, but there's probably you can optimize it the best as possible or do it really terribly,
Yeah.
And so what
Yeah.
would that look like? Would you recommend?
I'm going to say step 1 is to be honest with yourself, to
Hmm.
really give yourself permission to know what your limitations are and to really grieve the loss of what you are experiencing, because
Hmm.
I can see when I see the most dramatic change in a caregiver, and I'll give you an example. It's when they're able to kind of let go of what was. I have
Hmm.
to grieve the loss of
Yeah.
what was. That way
Sure.
now I can embrace what is. Very,
Hmm.
very, very painful and difficult to do it. And I'm
Hmm.
going to share this lovely story. So I was working with a client for 6, 7, 8 months. He just very codependent. We talked about him being codependent and blah, blah, blah. One day we had a session, he was smiling, and I said, wow, what's
Hmm.
happened? And he says, Tammy, I get it now. And I said, what? He goes, I get it. When I'm with my wife now, she would wake up from a nap. And like most, not most, but some people with dementia, when they wake up from the nap, they're very disoriented. They want to
Mhm.
go and see their mother, and the mother's passed away, or they want to go
Right.
home. It's not the
Mhm.
home that you're living in. It's the home most likely that they were raised in. And now when she woke up from a nap, he wasn't arguing with her, but he combed her hair and he put
Uh-huh.
lipstick on her, and he had a special candy that she liked, and he lit up and he got it, but he had to grieve what was
Sure.
in order to get there. So one is give
Yeah.
yourself permission to
Mhm.
feel your feelings, give
Mhm.
yourself permission to ask for help. You're not letting your loved one down. They don't
Right.
understand. And I really think if your loved one had an out of body experience and they saw how hard you were working to take care of them, they
Mhm.
would thank you and they would
Mhm.
love you for the care that you're providing. It's just I have an
Right.
impaired brain. So
Mhm.
that's step one. It starts
Mhm.
with me first.
Yeah.
Then step two is what are the resources that are available to me?
Mhm.
And one of the best ways to do that is to ask around, look into community resources, faith-based resources, professional resources, home care
Mhm.
agencies like yourself, right? Because now what does that look like? So once we've got the permission you've given to yourself, you know what your limitations are, it's okay. Then what are the resources that are available? Go to support groups, ask
Mhm.
around, start
Yep.
asking for what you need, right? And
Yep.
then once you ask and you've located these resources, now it's all about the process. How do we do it? And we
Right.
have to be very strategic. My other thing I
Mhm.
always say is we have to outsmart the dementia.
Yeah.
So we don't tell your loved one the full blown, this is the
Right.
scenario. Nobody
Yep.
likes to be told they need help. Nobody likes to be told we're getting a caregiver for you. So
Yep.
even I have caregivers, we change the language, we change our approach, we
Right.
change how we're even going to put the system in place. So
Mhm.
I think it's those three things, honestly,
Yeah.
that, but it starts with me first,
Yeah.
right? I can tell a caregiver from here to Tokyo, I think it's time, I
Mhm.
think it's time, I think it's time.
Mhm.
And if they're not ready, I need to
Yeah.
spend more time being with them and
Yeah.
understand why they're not ready and nurture that
Yeah.
so I can gradually help them come to the place where it's time, right?
Yeah.
And I'm going to say, Tom, and I wish I didn't have to say this,
Uh-huh.
but very often it's a crisis that occurs
Yeah.
that boom, then a change happens.
Yeah.
And I think we just have to be very respectful. The
Right.
caregiver is doing the very, very best that they can,
Absolutely.
and
Well,
with
and
the
they
support.
right, and they can't see around the corner because
No.
they don't know how much worse it's potentially going to be. And I've noticed, with a lot of people with dementia and Alzheimer's, the routine and the familiarity is what they, really cling to. So any change is going to be hard.
Yes.
But also, once they get through, if they have the perseverance to
Yes.
get through that change,
Yes.
that becomes the new normal. And
Yes.
then that becomes comfortable. And
Yes.
as long as it's centered on the caregiver's health as well.
Yeah.
So we need to get to this place so you can take care of yourself as well, whether it's a neighbor coming to sit with the person for a couple hours, they can get whatever it is, that they have to get through that phase to get to the next one. Cause it certainly, in my experience, and I know I've had some huddles with you with, common clients that we've had, the longer you wait, many times the harder it gets.
Yeah.
So it's, and that transition, even though all transitions, I think eventually get to that place,
Yes.
but correct me if I'm wrong. It seems like the earlier it happens, even if it's in little chunks of new support or whatever, it makes it a little bit easier if you do it sooner than later.
It does, but when I have this relationship with a loved one and I am consumed with guilt, it is really, really,
Yes.
really hard. And I will
Yep.
say honestly, sometimes a medical situation alleviates some of that for me, right? Like now
Sure.
I have to do it. I haven't done anything
Mhm.
prematurely. And again, there's so many emotional components that we
Yeah.
just can't dismiss that, right? The
Sure.
caregiver, you can imagine how many times, I'm in a session with somebody and fortunately, I will tell them, I'm very sincere and very honest with my clients. These are my concerns for you.
Hmm.
I will verbalize it because God forbid if it happens, and thank God I verbalize it, because when it
Hmm.
does happen,
Yeah.
that credibility,
They can
unfortunate, it's
recognize it.
like, oh my God, Tammy
Yeah.
predicted this, or
Right.
Tammy was concerned about this, right?
Hmm.
I can only express my concerns, and I
Hmm.
can hold their hand and I can walk by their side, but I also have to be very respectful of where they're at. And
Right.
it does break my heart because by the time I'm calling you or they're calling you, I'm like, oh my God, it's a crisis situation.
Hmm.
But at the same time, they can only move as fast as they can move. And
Sure.
is it probably, if I were to say what makes me sad, is that
Hmm.
I can see the writing on the wall. I can see what's coming down the pike, but I'm also very much supporting my client in the here and now,
Yeah.
understanding they're doing the best that they can. And again, I can only say, these are my concerns. And I
Right.
will say, these are my concerns for you. These are my concerns for your loved one.
Hmm.
Would you think about it? I understand, you may not be ready, but these are my
Hmm.
concerns. And
Right.
that's the best I can do there. I can't
Yeah.
force somebody to change if they're not ready. I
Sure.
can certainly walk by their side through the entire
Yeah.
journey,
Right.
but I also need to understand them. And it's a
Hmm.
two-way street, right?
Yeah.
I'm asking them to understand their loved one, and
Hmm.
I need to understand my client, right?
Yeah. Absolutely.
I got to understand my client.
Yeah.
So when I'm asking them to be more understanding of their loved one, then I too need to be very understanding of
Yeah.
my client.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's like all these types of consultative and service type businesses, it's all about the relationship, and you
Yep.
can't have a relationship unless you get to know somebody, and you're getting to know not only the people, but you're getting to know the person in the disease
Yep.
as it evolves.
Yes.
It's
Yes.
very complex.
Yes.
Um, I did want to, there's so many dimensions to this. We'll
Yeah.
never get to every stage of this, but I think we've covered so much I think that you provided kind of a look into the different layers here. Is there anything, you wanted to mention that maybe we didn't talk about yet before I let everybody know exactly how to reach you? Because I'm sure there's many people out there thinking, wow, I've got all these questions I need to ask now about my specific situation. But is there anything we didn't talk about that are important from a caregiver perspective to know? Because that is the point of this podcast, is for the people who are taking care of their loved ones as they're aging, as well as the people themselves. But I want to make sure we're helping.
Yeah, thank you, Tom, for asking that. There is one more piece that I think we have to be more aware of, and actually, it is the subject of my second book coming out, and that is we all have a history. We all come with a history.
Right.
The caregiver, have a personal past, and the person you're caring for has a personal past. And often, what can happen in dementia, we're so quick to dismiss that their behaviors just because of dementia.
Mhm.
And in my private practice, I can go for a very deep dive and
Mhm.
really listen to the behaviors and interpret the behaviors, and then go fishing for what happened in their past that might
Mhm.
explain some of the dementia behavior. So it's really important to learn about the person's past as well as your own. Your past is going to trigger you as a caregiver as well. And I do want to say that this dementia journey, on so many levels, for as difficult and emotionally hard as it is, can also be very healing in
Mhm.
terms of, give you example, I have a client moved his loved one to a care community. I'll be a good girl. 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 Went for a deep dive, realized why she's saying that, again, because of some abuse in her background. And
Mhm.
I got to work with the care community to say, tell her what a good girl she is. Tell her how
Mhm.
much you enjoy her. Tell her how much you like
Mhm.
her. And her behavior issues have come down.
Wow.
And what a gift that we're able now to give her a
Yes.
different message
Yes.
before she passes away. We might
Mhm.
be able to bring a different message to them before they pass away.
Yeah.
And then this
Amazing.
dementia journey for the person who's caring for them, it's
Mhm.
an opportunity to heal my own wounds, heal the
Right.
past, not and change our expectations, but it can have a profound impact positive, transformative for the
Yep.
caregiver, and what a gift we can give the person
Right.
before they pass away,
Yep.
messaging they never got when they were
Yeah.
younger. I love
Yeah.
you, you're safe,
That's
I'll take
yeah.
care of you, right?
Right. Yeah.
So there's a lot of
Yep.
different dimensions of the dementia journey.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. Yeah. I mean, and to take that approach
Yeah,
where you're stepping back, and I mean, that could be almost the highlight of their life, even though they're in this terrible situation,
that's right.
to have that flip switch and
Yeah.
to get that messaging at the end and to have
Yes.
that comfort and that reassurance.
Yes.
I mean, that's the silver lining, right?
Yeah.
So, I mean,
It
wow.
is.
I mean,
Yeah.
because it doesn't all have to be bad. I mean, everybody's life is their life and their journey, and there's good and bad, and that could be that highlight there at the end, which is amazing.
Yeah, and every emotion, every feeling counts. We're not
Yes.
dismissing anything. We're just allowing ourselves to feel, and then
Mhm.
how can it empower us not only to be a better caregiver,
Yep.
but how it will profoundly change us as a
Yep.
human being. And then
Right.
again, the gift we can give the person. And,
Mhm.
I'm going to be very honest. I talk about in my second book how to take care
Mhm.
of somebody who did not take care of you, right?
Yeah.
I mean, there's a lot of things to really work
Absolutely.
through. And in the end, though, I do want to go on record and say that I do want to thank every caregiver for the love and the
Mhm.
care and the support they
Yeah.
provide, because they don't get that enough from their loved
Mhm.
one, if at
Right.
all.
Yeah.
I need them. I need caregivers. I need each and every one of you to know how wonderful the care is, whether your loved one gets it or not. You
Right.
are a gift to the people you're taking
Yeah.
care of.
So true. So true. Well, Tammy, thank you so much. I will have all of the different ways and contact information. And when your book comes out, we'll add all that contact and how to get that. I mean, it's really a great source of information for the family caregivers, the first book and the one that's coming out. And also, even though you were local to Silicon
Yes,
Valley and the town of Los Gatos, and you have a wider reach. You
yes,
are online. You have support groups online that you can serve
yes,
people all over. And that's just another great way for people to connect and get information. And we say you don't have to do it alone. You are not alone. This is
no,
a journey that many people are walking. And sometimes, like with most support groups, just to hear that other people are experiencing these
yes,
things and they are doing it is also a great sense of bonding and reassurance and comfort. Even though it might not lighten your load, it certainly helps, help you get out of bed the next day again, and
yes.
and face it, knowing that others are walking that same path. So
Exactly. And as far as my private practice goes, also, I have clients in all different states. We just do it
okay.
via Zoom. So,
Yeah.
so Tom, thank you so very much for having me as a guest. As always, it's a pleasure to see you.
All right. Well, thank you so much. So thanks everybody for joining us again on Synergy Sessions, Aging Smarter in Silicon Valley. And again, remember, being a caregiver and taking care of people is really hard. You don't have to do it alone. Thanks again, and we'll see you next time.
Take care, everybody.
Thanks. Thanks. Thank you for joining us on the Synergy Sessions. We know you have a lot on your plate, so we really appreciate you spending the time with us today. If you found the information in this episode useful, please reach out to the guest or the resources in the show notes. I know they would appreciate it and would love to help. Also, if you have an idea for a future episode, please reach out to us on Instagram or Facebook, or email us and let us know. We'd love to hear from you and provide information that's useful. Lastly, please remember, you don't have to do this alone.